You think the people who never break under pressure are fearless. They are not. They just stopped treating their own stress signals as instructions. And if you miss that distinction, pressure will keep hijacking you at the exact moment you need yourself most. Quick thing before we go deeper. We are building toward our next subscriber milestone, and your subscription genuinely helps this channel reach people who actually care about psychology, not quotes. If this hits a nerve, tap like too, because it tells the algorithm this is worth spreading. All right, you have felt this, even if you do not use these words. You are fine in practice, fine in conversation, fine when there is time. Then the moment turns real. Someone is watching. The clock matters. The consequences have a shape. And suddenly your mind gets loud, your body gets weird. And you start doing that thing where you almost leave your own life, like you are piloting yourself from the outside. This is not just about confidence. It is not even about willpower. What I have observed, and what the research keeps pointing at from different angles, is that people who hold steady under pressure have a different relationship with prediction. Pressure is a prediction problem. Your brain is trying to forecast what happens next and allocate energy for survival. Some people get trapped inside the forecast. Other people use the forecast like a dashboard, not a prison. Here is what is actually happening when pressure breaks you. It is not that you cannot handle it. It is that your brain starts overweighting one kind of information: threat prediction errors. The gap between what you want to happen and what you fear might happen becomes the loudest signal in the system. And the brain does what it always does with loud signals. It reorganizes around them. Now here is where it gets interesting. The unbreakable people are not calmer because they have less threat. They are calmer because their brain tags the threat differently. Same physiological arousal, different meaning. And that meaning changes what your attention can do. Let me show you the first mechanism, and it is not the one people talk about. Most people under pressure lose because they start managing their feelings as if feelings are commands. You feel anxiety, so you try to erase it. You feel doubt, so you start negotiating with it. You feel the rush of adrenaline, so you interpret it as a sign that you are about to fail. And that creates a second task on top of the real task: emotional cleanup. You are now doing two jobs with one brain. The people who never break do something colder. They treat internal signals as telemetry, like a pilot reading instruments in turbulence. Turbulence is not an argument. It is not a moral judgment. It is data: speed, altitude, vibration, fuel. Your heart rate is vibration. Your thoughts racing are wind shear. The point is not to make the sky calm. The point is to keep the aircraft on heading. This is supported by a whole line of work on appraisal, the idea that physiological arousal is ambiguous until you label it. In experiments where people are trained to reappraise stress as a performance resource, they often show better outcomes and different cardiovascular patterns. Not because they magically relax, but because the body shifts from a pure threat state to more of a challenge state. Blood vessels behave differently. Attention behaves differently. Decision-making behaves differently. But I want you to notice a subtler detail. The unbreakable person is not thinking, "I am excited." That is too cute. They are thinking, "Of course this is happening. This is what it costs." They normalize the signal. When you normalize a signal, you stop obeying it. And that leads to the second mechanism, which is the real divider. Under pressure, most people collapse time. They treat the next 30 seconds as if it is their whole identity. One mistake becomes, "I am done." One awkward moment becomes, "I am exposed." This is called temporal myopia in different research traditions. Your brain narrows the time horizon when it senses threat. It is adaptive if you are being chased by something. It is disastrous if you are trying to execute a skill. The unbreakable people do not expand confidence, they expand time. They have a mental habit of running a longer simulation than the pressure wants them to run. Pressure screams, now, now, now. They answer with something like, this is one iteration, not positive thinking, iteration thinking. Think about this for a second. If you truly believed you were in an experiment, you would not panic at unexpected data. You would get curious. The unbreakable person is running an experiment on reality in real time. They are not performing a single perfect performance. They are collecting information inside a high-stakes environment. You can see this in elite athletes and surgeons and crisis leaders. The ones who stay stable are constantly updating what is working, what is not, what is the next smallest move that improves my position. They are not asking, how do I feel about this? They are asking, what changed? That question is a time horizon tool. It forces the mind into process and out of identity. And yes, there is a brain basis for it. Under acute stress, the amygdala and related salience networks can dominate, pulling resources away from prefrontal systems that support planning, working memory, and cognitive control. But the key is not use your prefrontal cortex harder, because that is like telling a computer to compute more while it is overheating. The key is to reduce the identity threat so the salient system stops screaming that everything is life or death. Which brings us to the third mechanism, and this is the one almost nobody says out loud. People who never break under pressure have already prepaid the shame. Most people avoid pressure because pressure threatens a particular kind of pain, social pain. The fear is not the task. The fear is the meaning of failure. Failure means you are incompetent, unworthy, foolish, exposed. That meaning is shame, and shame is a status injury. In social species like us, status injuries feel like survival threats. So in the moment, your brain is not just trying to succeed, it is trying to prevent status collapse. And status prevention makes you act weird. It makes you play not to lose. It makes you hide information. It makes you become rigid. It makes you choose safe actions that preserve the image, even when the safe action destroys the outcome. The unbreakable people do something that sounds almost dark. They rehearse the social cost in advance until it loses its power. They imagine failing and being seen, and they let their nervous system learn, I would survive that. Not as a mantra, as a genuine emotional exposure. In clinical psychology, exposure works because you stop avoiding the feared stimulus and the prediction of catastrophe updates. Your brain learns the new contingency. This is unpleasant, not fatal. The same learning process applies here, except the feared stimulus is humiliation, not a spider. When you prepay shame, you stop spending attention on image management. You get your attention back for the task. Notice the pattern here. Telemetry, not commands. Iterations, not identity. Prepaid shame, not desperate image defense. These are not personality traits. These are informational strategies. Now stay with me, because the next part recontextualizes everything I just said, and it explains a mystery you have probably noticed. Why some people look calm, but then make bizarre decisions under pressure anyway. There are two kinds of not breaking. One is emotional steadiness, the other is decision integrity. And you can have the first without the second. Here is the deeper layer. Pressure does not just amplify emotion, it changes what you are optimizing for. Under normal conditions, you optimize for the long-term goal. Win the game, deliver the project, speak clearly, make the right call. Under pressure, the brain often switches objectives without telling you. It starts optimizing for immediate relief, for stopping the feeling, for ending uncertainty, for getting a quick yes, for escaping evaluation. This is why smart people sabotage themselves at the finish line. They do something that makes no strategic sense, and then afterward they say, "I do not know what I was thinking." They were thinking, they were optimizing, just for the wrong variable. The unbreakable people have one almost unfair advantage. They notice the objective switch in real time. They catch themselves when the mind secretly moves from play to win to play to not feel. And then they do something simple but brutal. They re-anchor to the real objective with a constraint. A constraint is not a motivational phrase. It is a rule that prevents relief-seeking behavior. For example, I will not check for reassurance more than once. I will not change the plan midstream unless I can name the new evidence. I will take one breath and then act on the next smallest executable step. Constraints keep your behavior aligned when your emotions are trying to buy comfort. In neuroscience terms, you can think of this as protecting the action selection system from being hijacked by affect. You are limiting the action space so the brain cannot choose the relief shortcut. In game theory terms, you are making a commitment device. You are binding your future self to the strategy you chose while you were still sane. Now, a lot of people hear that and say, okay, so the unbreakable people have discipline. And that is still not it. Discipline is what it looks like from the outside. The inside is different. The inside is that they have a different relationship with uncertainty. Most people treat uncertainty as danger. That is why they rush. That is why they over-control. That is why they grasp for certainty from other people, from over-preparing, from rituals, from perfectionism. It is all an attempt to convert uncertainty into something the brain can stop scanning. The unbreakable people treat uncertainty as a workspace, a place you operate, not a problem you solve. This matters because pressure is basically uncertainty plus visibility. Something might go wrong and people might see it. If you cannot operate inside uncertainty, pressure will always feel like drowning. If you can operate inside uncertainty, pressure feels like intensity. Different experience entirely. So what is the unified model here? And what is the pattern behind the patterns? It is this. People who never break under pressure have trained themselves to separate three streams that most people blend together. Stream 1 is arousal. Heart rate, adrenaline, the body mobilizing. Stream 2 is narrative. The story your mind tells about what arousal means. Stream 3 is strategy. The actions that actually increase your odds. Most people fuse them. They feel arousal. The narrative says it is danger. Strategy becomes relief-seeking. One fused loop. The unbreakable person keeps them modular. Arousal can be high without narrative becoming catastrophic. Narrative can be loud without strategy changing. Strategy can remain stable even if arousal spikes again. And if you want something concrete you can use, here is a framework I have seen work across domains. I call it the 3-question protocol, and it is designed to be run in under 10 seconds while your body is screaming. Question 1. What is the signal? Not what is wrong with me, but what is the data? Tight chest, racing mind, shaky hands. Name it like telemetry. Question 2. What is the objective that pressure is trying to switch me into? Is it trying to make you seek relief, seek approval, seek certainty, seek control? Name the hijack. Question 3. What is the smallest strategic action that pays the objective, not the feeling? One sentence you can say. One next step you can execute. One decision rule you can follow. That third question is where people change their lives, because it turns pressure into behavior instead of identity. You stop trying to become a different person in the moment. You just do the next correct thing while being the same person with a loud nervous system. And here is the part that sounds almost too simple, but it is the final piece. The unbreakable people do not wait to feel ready. They wait to feel oriented. Ready is an emotion. Oriented is a map. Orientation is knowing right now what matters, what is true, and what you will do next. You can be terrified and oriented. You can be exhausted and oriented. You can be disappointed and oriented. When you are oriented, pressure cannot scatter you. So the next time you are in that moment where your mind starts collapsing time and turning the next 30 seconds into your entire identity, notice what is actually happening. Your body is sending a signal. Your brain is trying to protect your status. Your objective is trying to switch into relief. And you have a choice most people never realize they have. You can stay modular. If this changed how you see pressure, tell me in the comments what your pressure pattern is. Do you chase relief, chase approval, or chase certainty? Because the people who never break are not made of stone. They just learned one rare skill. They can feel everything and still not let feeling decide.